You know, when we think about AI going wrong, our minds usually jump to some single rogue system causing chaos. But what if I told you the real danger isn't the one AI you're watching, but all the other ones interacting in ways you can't see? Yeah, let's get into this, because today we're going to explain why the biggest threat you face is the quiet, unmanaged risk that's piling up across your entire AI portfolio. This right here, this completely flips the script on the typical sci-fi rogue AI story. The real catastrophe isn't some sudden explosion. Nope, it's more like a slow, silent fire, building heat from the combined interacting risks of all your different AI systems. It means we have to stop looking at the individual trees and start seeing the whole forest. So here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll uncover those hidden risks and talk about why looking at just one system at a time is a recipe for disaster. Then, we'll dive into what a real portfolio governance solution looks like, how to actually enforce it, and finally, how you can use all this to scale your AI the right way. All right, let's jump right into our first topic, the hidden risk of AI. The root of the problem is that we usually manage these systems in their own little silos. But the real danger, the one that sneaks up on you, comes from how all their risks add up. And that's exactly why we've got to break out of this single system mindset. Think about it this way. Every single time you roll out a new AI, you're not just adding a new piece of software. You're adding a new source of authority, of change, and, yeah, of risk. Now here's the kicker. These risks don't just line up neatly next to each other. Oh no, they bump into each other, they interact, they compound. And that's what portfolio governance is for, to manage those interactions on purpose. Because if you don't, that risk just keeps building up silently, in the background. And this leads us perfectly to our next section, and the one concept you absolutely need to get: aggregate risk. This is the whole reason portfolio governance is so critical, especially if you're in a regulated industry. So what is aggregate risk? Well, it's not simple addition. It's not 1 + 1 = 2. It's more like 1 + 1 equals, who knows, maybe 3, maybe 10? The whole point is that the secret interactions between your AI systems create brand new ways for things to fail, ways you would never, ever spot by looking at each system all by itself. So how does this actually happen in the real world? Well, picture this. You've got multiple AI models all feeding information into one super important business decision. What happens if they start giving you conflicting advice? Or worse, what if they all depend on the same corrupted data source? You could set off a chain reaction, a cascading failure where one system's mistake triggers another and then another. These are exactly the kinds of interaction effects that are totally invisible if you're only managing AI one system at a time. Okay, so we've laid out the problem. And yeah, it's complex, maybe even a little scary. But the good news is there's a clear, structured solution. So let's talk about portfolio governance and how it gives you back that visibility and control you need. A really solid governance solution is built on these 4 pillars. First up, visibility. You just have to know what you have. Simple as that. Second, prioritization. Not all AI systems are created equal, right? So you've got to focus your energy on the ones with the most authority and risk. Third, consistency. This is huge. You need the same standards, the same rules for everyone. And finally, you need crystal clear decision rights. Everybody needs to know who gets to say yes, no, or hit the brakes right. And I have to really hammer this point home. If you have teams spinning up AI systems off the books, what we call shadow AI, it completely torpedoes everything we just talked about. I mean, it's impossible to manage the risk of something you don't even know exists. So how do we make all this happen? How do we actually build a system that enforces this kind of consistency and visibility day in and day out? Well, that brings us to our 4th section, this idea of a control plane. This image is the perfect way to understand it. What you're looking at is a control plane for both information technology and operational technology. And its whole job is to separate the doing of the work from the governing of the work. See the layers. Down at the bottom, you have the execution plane. That's where all the AI services are actually running. Right below that, the evidence plane is logging everything, creating an audit trail. But the real magic is at the top, the control plane. This is where you have formal approval gates, validation checks, and change control. And the beauty of this whole setup is that it makes governance a repeatable, auditable process. It's not based on which manager is on duty or which committee feels like meeting. It becomes programmatic and ensures every single system gets the same level of review, which is absolutely essential in a regulated environment. Consistency stops being a goal and starts being a built-in feature of your system. Okay, we're in the home stretch. Having a framework like this control plane is the key to scaling your AI responsibly.
But it's just as important to know what not to do, to recognize the common ways that companies get this so wrong.
These are the classic traps, approving new AI systems one at a time without ever looking at the whole portfolio, completely ignoring those interaction risks we've been talking about, turning a blind eye to shadow AI, letting different teams play by different rules, and maybe the most human one, just plain old governance fatigue, where everyone gets tired of the process. Every single one of these failures is quietly scaling up risk across your entire organization. Now, let's be super clear about what this explainer is and what it isn't. Our goal here is to break down the mechanics of portfolio governance, to give you a way to think about it deliberately. What we are not doing is telling you exactly what committees you need to create, and we are definitely not giving you a green light to use any particular AI system. This is a framework for thinking, not a rubber stamp of approval.
So if you remember one thing, let it be this. The ultimate goal here is to get to a place where you are doing holistic risk assessments and regular, formal reviews of your entire AI portfolio. That's how you shift from just putting out fires to proactively managing AI risk at scale.
And that leads us with one final question for you to take back to your team. I want you to really think about this. Is your organization just playing whack-a-mole, managing one AI system at a time, or are you truly governing the big picture, the aggregate portfolio-level risk? Because honestly, the answer to that question could be the difference between scaling responsibly and quietly scaling your way into a crisis.